What's up?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another week of the Hardworking Happy Hour podcast. I actually have a drink this week.
Oh, wow.
I actually have two of them, so we'll see how crazy this gets.
Wow.
Um, this week, very, very, very excited for our episode because I don't want to brag here, but we got a pretty good get here. We got Major League Baseball, Cleveland Guardians. Not player, but mental performance coach for Major League Baseball. I mean, we're talking some major league stuff here, some big league stuff, literal big league stuff
The
happening here.
literal big league.
Brian Miles. Uh, any initials after that? Like certification? I know there's some
Esquire?
certifications. Do you have to say them
No,
out
you don't have to
loud?
say. I'm just a guy, man. I messaged you. I'm just a dude trying to help other dudes hit a ball with a bat. So it
Yeah,
sounds fancier than it might be, but I think a lot of overlap to other things that people do. So it's still fun.
absolutely. We're always talking about our poor mental performance, so this ties right in with kind of our normal thing. I mean, just first off, and I said this a couple minutes ago, like just objectively, so cool. Mental performance coach for Major League Baseball players, so freaking cool. So we're super happy to have you on and
Yes.
just
Thank you for coming on.
share some
Thanks for
time
having
with
me.
us here.
I
And
appreciate it.
I guess another little side note, we do know each other. The friend that we are right now doing a backyard for, you were his college roommate, so we've hung out a bunch of times. You also have experience in the landscape hardscape industry because your dad owned a business, so you kind of grew up in it. So you're like the perfect crossroads of everything that we talk about and like an actual expert in it. So it's gonna be good to get like some actual advice here from the
From a
ramblings we did.
professional.
Yeah.
I've been through it, man. I have so much respect for the work you guys do. I just like the way I had respect, obviously, a ton for my dad and growing a business in the landscaping hardscape world. And I mean, let's be real too, man. It's just there's nothing better than seeing a finished product and knowing that your hands and hard work did it. So I mean, it's just it's super cool, and obviously it's obviously great. You know, Sean, like we spend a lot of time together. So and I've
Yeah.
been following you guys, follow your journey, dude. There's like nothing I love more when I just need a little break from my own stuff. Just hit up your Instagram, and I'm just like, dang, man, that's some good stuff, some good work you're putting together there. So I love it.
That's awesome, man. So let's I guess jump into it. First and foremost, tell us what does this mean? You're a mental performance coach for I think now a lot of people have heard about this kind of thing. It's become popular, maybe from some TV shows and stuff like that, like this mental performance thing. I feel like Tiger Woods made it pretty popular, like this and Kobe Bryant kind of thing. But like
Yeah.
break down like what does this mean? What is your job? Just tell us about it.
Yeah, I do think that over the past couple of years, there's been a spike, I think, in professional athletes or just high performers in general, talking about the need for like an additional coach for their mind. Um, when we really like break down what it is that we do, sometimes we talk about like, oh, like, yeah, I'm a strength and conditioning coach for your mind. A lot of people know what strength and conditioning is, trying to strengthen and enhance the body. And as you look at the comparison in the mental game, I mean that's the job, right? The role is to strengthen, enhance the mental part of your performance, whatever that is, right? And we get fixated on the idea of professional baseball, but performance is performance. I'm a dad, you're a dad, like being a dad, performance, being a husband or partner, performance. What you guys do, high performance, it transcends into business, into tech. I've had the opportunity to do some talks with folks at NASA, at Google. There's just again, it's like as you sit back and think about what your day to day is, if you look at it as a performance opportunity, it's pretty cool the way that your mind can dictate a lot of what your body does. And so I think that's how it's played out. I mean, again, similar to you guys, like with your passions and stuff. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I am truly fascinated with the human potential. Like that's my gig. I'm like, how can we get better? How can we get better? And again, there's everyone's so fixated on the physical parts of things, and don't get me wrong, that plays out in a lot of our space. But I mean, the physical is driven by the mental, and it's like if you can't influence, impact, control the thing between your ears, it's just you're gonna have such a more difficult time, with the physical part of what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. That's like, and as you're saying that, I'm actually thinking like the I think the athletic portion of like the mental performance, that's actually probably been in like the public eye for longer. Now it is like, you see mom bloggers that are like mental performance, aficionados, and like, people in tech, and like the CEO and like the modern entrepreneur is like so production driven and so keyed into like a lot of these concepts. So I guess it's kind of the opposite. Like the athletic thing, I think, is where a lot of us kind of became familiar with it, with the Mamba mentality, like Kobe
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Tiger, and visualizing like that ball going in the cup, and Happy Gilmore, just
no
go
doubt. The
home.
original. Yep, the original, man.
But now it is so much more widespread, and a lot of this is you're performing at everything that you do. Um, Talk about how you got into it. Like what was your training? What's a background look like to get into this?
Yeah, I think like most people, probably just a failed athlete. So that would be me, just failed athlete. Because I played with some of your friends. So maybe we're all failed athletes here. But I think I think just a passion for understanding the mind and the brain. I mean, like most people, you have some sort of spark or interest in it. I mean, I can go all the way back to like senior year in high school, even taking AP psychology and just being like, man, this is, and that was like basically a psych 101 class. I remember like one of the first things we learned about was cults. And I'm just like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. I'm like, is this what you get your degree in psychology for? This is super cool. It's like, oh, we're gonna learn about cults. And even just like through my time at Montclair State, and my bachelor's degree, no clue what I really wanted to do, but always just so interested in, whether it was like my evolutionary psychology class, like, psych of adolescence, and like learning about children and their brains. Just so many different unique opportunities to start to understand like what the brain does. And then again, as you get into like even more so just like the neuroscience around it, and like how you build habits, like the fact that the brain is topographical. So like all of our body parts are like right next to each other with our neurons firing, like the idea of how you learn something new, like neurons that fire together, wire together, and that like there actually is real estate in our brain, right? So it's like at some point we just don't actually have space left. And so like if you want to learn something new, like you have to basically like let something go, which is why I always joke. I'm like, yeah, it's like that's why you can't remember half the crap you learn in school, because it's just like you're not using it, right? It's like you have to use it or you lose it. I just all that stuff was just facilitated over the course of undergraduate. And then, I decided to get my master's in athletic counseling from Springfield College in Massachusetts. So went up there, and like most people, you're in grad school and everyone expects you to like know what you want to do. I want to do like 50 different things when I was in grad school. I want to be a soccer coach. I was working at an inner city school doing academic advising. Then I wanted to be an academic advisor. And then I worked at an outdoor learning center. So I was like a ropes course and challenge course instructor. And I was just like fascinated with like how we can bring like adventure therapy into like how we do high performance stuff. And it's just like hanging out in the woods all day, just like belaying people and like climbing trees and stuff. I was like, this is what I want to do. And then I don't know, I gone to a conference. I saw some folks that were doing work with the military that obviously like was really interesting to me. You talk about high performers. And so when I graduated, I mean, I guess for like honest answer, I just like couldn't find a job. So I was like, oh, I got an idea. I'll just like go back to school for another year. So I went back to school for another year, got I got an advanced graduate certificate in mental health counseling. So I actually like got to understand my education in mental health was there. Did an internship, like had a choice about whether I wanted to go that route and get licensed. That time kind of helped me realize I was more interested in the performance side than the deficit side on the mental health side. And so yeah, just kind of kept tackling along. I was, going home every Friday actually in grad school and mowing for my dad because my dad was just like sick of mowing. So me and my buddy would go down in the morning. We'd mow the 9, 10 businesses and like private properties that my dad had. He'd give us like $100 and be like, oh sweet, like we're in grad school, like $100, like awesome, like this will get us through the weekend of drinking, right? And then, yeah, just, again, the military was always something that was interesting to me from the performance side. So that's how I got the opportunity to interview for a position there and packed up my life and moved to Fort Bliss out in El Paso, Texas, and worked there for a little over 2 years. And then tried to get closer to home, ended up going to Fort Drum in upstate New York where the 10th Mountain Division is, and got to work there for a little bit. And, just through some networking connections, got the chance to interview for the job here in Cleveland, and this is my 10th season. So I've been here for over a decade. This is where my daughter was born, my son was born. Megan and I, my wife, were. It's weird to say, man. We're Clevelanders. I guess it's like the longest place I've ever lived. I'm like a Midwest guy. It's kind of odd to think, as a New Englander in me, I'm like, I don't know if I can ever say that, but it's been a crazy journey, man. It's super cool to sit back and reflect on. I'm sure like you guys have done about, how you end up where you end up. It's just all because of the failures that you've had and the mistakes and adversity. And just like a lot of times the sacrifices of willing to like take a risk, and risks are usually, what gets you to where you want to be.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like you said, you went from working with the military to then baseball, which are obviously both incredibly high performance, stressful positions. Like, what is the overlap and what's different between those two things? Like, how did you find that transition between the two?
Yeah, the performance skills themselves are, how you describe imagery to somebody is how you describe imagery. I've actually I've sort of noticed um, there's more things that like lend themselves depending on maybe what the performance is. So I found myself in the military, and I will say like in the Army, we're doing a lot more like education teaching. So it was a lot more of like standing up from a classroom and talking. But I did find that we were like pretty heavy on like attention control, like how quickly we can shift your attention, which I think makes sense for military. You're in a Humvee and you're the gunner and you're like going down a road and you're scanning. It's like, yeah, like you have to be able to like shift your attention field pretty freaking well, to like recognize a threat or recognize something's not a threat, to be like looking for IED, whatever it might be. Like we found the attention control frame or attention control concepts to be like pretty important for the military. Not saying that that's not important here in baseball, but the interesting about baseball is it's like as a soccer guy or some of the faster sports, baseball is like super slow. And so it's similar to golf. It just like allows you a lot of time to think, which just gives you a chance for shenanigans to get in your head and good,
Yeah.
bad, and different, whatever it might be. It's the slower the sport, the more time to think. And so we've realized that I think in baseball, especially, or potentially in golf as well, a similar sport, it's like when you have that time, you're often pulled into the past or into the future. And it's like, you get fixated on the past about what happened, whether it's like a bad call an umpire made or that you swung through a pitch that you should have hit. And you're like super fixated on that. And then you're just not in the moment. It's really hard to hit 100-mile-per-hour like ball when you're just not there present. And so you're fixated on that, or you're fixated on the future. Like, I strike out, and like now all you're doing is like thinking about your next at bat, and you're not in the moment. I think it's anyone that's ever played golf, it's like you're stuck on your last shot, and then it's like you just like not like, so your next two shots are crappy. It's like so we find that idea of being mindful, of being in the moment, to be really important. And again, that's important in the military too. But we've found that it's just like there's those different spaces that you kind of play in depending on what's going on. But yeah, it's just so. I mean, the present moment thing I've found is transcends. I think as parents or as partners in relationships. I think with cell phones, watches, like you're constantly being pulled in a multitude of directions. There is attention vampires everywhere, just like vying and sucking for your attention. And how disciplined can you be to just be in the moment? Anyone who's got kids or a partner, it's like it's so easy just to like be looking at your phone, right? It's like so easy, and you're just completely missing the moment with a kid or a partner that you're like never going to get back. And I think when you look at it that way, I'm not trying to make any parents feel bad out there, but it's sometimes like it pulls on my own heartstrings where I'm just like, am I being present? So like you put in guardrails, you just leave your phone upstairs, right? It's like it's not that important. You just leave your phone upstairs, or you turn your phone off, or whatever it might be, and you like, yeah, you choose to be in the moment with like a 4 and a 2-year-old who are just absolutely crazy. Like that's a choice you make, you know?
Yeah, I think being in the present moment is probably like the most difficult thing to do on earth, like in this society right now. I am admittedly not good at it at all. I try, I really try to be mindful about being mindful. And
Yeah.
I've talked about on the podcast a lot. I see a therapist. It's been great for me. And one of the things that she told me was like, it's really easy to fall into thinking about something that happened at work or something that's going to happen in the future. But you just need to remind yourself, like, my job right now in this moment is to be a dad, or in this moment right now, it's to be a partner. And there's times for it. Like, there is a time to be the business
Mm.
owner, or the person that's thinking about these problems, but it's not all the time. And it's, with all the distractions in the world right now, it's so hard to like be in the present moment, especially in baseball when you're like, you are just off at less than a millisecond, I guess, you're missing that ball. Um, and I never thought about it like that, where the slower the sport or the thing, the more time you have to have those like thoughts kind of creep in and just mess with your head. And I see it with all my friends who play golf. They think about it way too much, and
Mm.
then they just completely mess it up. I'm great at just leaving the last shot behind it, and then I can get right on to my next terrible shot and not let it affect me whatsoever. But that's just so fascinating. So like, what are some of the ways that and I think we said, did we mention that you're with the Cleveland Guardians? Did we just said Major League Baseball?
I said that in the beginning. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. That's not,
I'm
yeah,
like,
that's
did
where
we even
that's where I'm
mention it? Or
from.
people gonna be like, okay, what exactly? Um, what are some things that you do to like train that? Like, it's a muscle. What are some
Hmm.
exercises that you can do to try to stay in the moment?
Well, you briefly talked about it. I mean, mindfulness now. I mean, nowadays, especially like while we joke about the phone maybe being an issue, like it's also awesome. There's tons of apps out there for mindfulness. So Headspace, the Calm app, like you name it. It helps you train your mind for recognizing without judgment that thoughts come and go. Andy Petticombe, who's the voice of Headspace and sort of founder of it, he like it's like one of my favorite analogies. There's a couple analogies for like mindfulness, but he just talks about like you're just sitting on the side of the road and you're just like watching traffic, right? And like the cars are all of your thoughts, and you're just like you're watching them come and go, right? Like that's what you do. And the idea of like being very fixated on like one of the vehicles there and just like stuck on it, and you're just like kind of like why it's like that's the idea of being very fixated or stuck on a particular thought or thing that has happened to you, and the fact that you're just like missing all these other things coming by. Somebody else uses an analogy of just like leaves in a stream, and they're just like all kind of flowing and going. And like you just think about that idea of like the flow of it, and that's just the way our mind works, just constantly having thoughts that they come and they go. And the ability to train that is the idea of sitting, focusing on your breath, being able to come back to something like your breath when you recognize that you are fixated or stuck on a thought. So if you're focused on your breath and you just are working on just like counting your breath in and out, and then you sort of realize that for the past like 15 seconds, you've just been like thinking about something different or thinking about something off of that. It's the idea of being able to come back to your breath. And like you hear most people talk about mindfulness, it's you doing it without judgment, right? So it's like you're not like, oh my God, I suck at this. Like I'm the worst. It's not that. It's like, oh yeah, that's totally normal, dude. I kind of like went off on this thought. I'm gonna come back to my breath. It's the ability to do that and being disciplined to come back to your breath that allows you to practice that idea of being in the moment, which is really obviously super helpful. In baseball, though, I will say we we try to provide kinesthetic cues with the idea of being in the moment. So what part of it is being disciplined, self-aware enough to know I've lost control, right? I've lost control of my emotions. I've lost control of what's happening. So like I'm a hitter. That ball that just came in, I thought it was a ball. Umpire called it a strike. I'm pretty irritated. I'm pretty frustrated. Now I'm 0-2 instead of like, whatever. Should be like 1-0 or 2-0 or whatever. And so I recognize I've lost control, right? So that's the first part. And then you do something about it. Like you're being disciplined to do something. So in our world, it's like, hey, call timeout. And for some guys, they need to loosen their batting gloves, right? And like you see it all the time in baseball, so loosen their batting gloves. So maybe that for them is like, and we'd say this is like when you loosen your glove, you take it like unvelcro it, you're releasing the tension of what just happened. You're releasing the last pitch, which anyone who has tight gloves on, when you loosen them up, it actually feels kind of nice. Like, oh, it's like nice and loose, right? So you let go. You're letting go of the last pitch by just like losing the tension. And then as you tighten it back up, you're using that cue of just like the tightness on your wrist. Like, okay, I'm back in the present moment. I'm back. I'm going to go, right? Like that works for some guys. For some people, they need to like take their foot and literally wipe away the last pitch. So they'll wipe the batter's box and they're choosing to wipe it clean. Or a pitcher on the mound, they're going to choose to wipe the rubber off because they're frustrated or irritated, or they're going to choose to walk to the back of the mound, take their hat off, and stare off into the distance in whatever city we're in, and like that's their thing. I'm taking my hat off, I'm taking a deep breath, and I'm just going to go back now. It's like that idea of taking time to let your discipline play itself out. And I think sometimes where we miss out is just we're not disciplined enough. We just try to like be able to power through it. Oh, hopefully it'll get better. I'm just gonna power through it and leave it totally up to chance, And a lot of times it's like, why leave it up to chance? It doesn't guarantee success. It doesn't guarantee, but it's like you're giving yourself a better opportunity to be successful when you choose to let your discipline win. Because I mean, every incredible result I've seen is on the back of discipline. There's no doubt about it.
I think it's really interesting how you said like connecting it with something kinesthetic, like unvelcroing the gloves, and obviously like those are the things that you see batters do all the time, and like they're so keyed in on like a routine or a way that they do things, and I think that's just a really good way that anybody can come back to it, like join it, connect it with some sort of action. Like, okay, I have lost control. I am not in the moment. I'm like letting my emotions get the best of me at work or at home. Like, think of something. It can be like, okay, let me unbuckle my Apple Watch and buckle it back in. But like we read about this in habits and all other kinds of stuff. Like the more you can link things, the more you're able to stick with them, and it's easier to remember and just keep everything connected. So I think that's a really interesting tip that you can just do. Like when you notice that like, you're either not in the moment or you're losing control of your temper or whatever it is, or you're just like kind of going down an anxiety rabbit hole, like do something physical to like remind yourself, okay, this is my reminder to like take a breath, start over. And if it's good enough for professional baseball players, I guess it's good enough for guys and gals that built decks in backyards and stuff, right?
I think it works, man. I'll say taking a deep breath never hurt anybody either. So if you true, and again, like deep breath, what that actually means is hand on your chest, hand on your stomach, trying to get that bottom hand out further than the top chest. It's just so interesting the way that we've all, as human beings, as we get older, we cut our breath off. Like you ask anybody to take a deep breath and they go, and you watch their whole chest move and their upper torso move, or like in a worst case scenario, sometimes you see people go, like whole shoulders go up and everything. And it's like we've completely forgotten how to breathe, dude. Like Chauncey, you got babies. Like I've had baby. Like we've all seen a baby. You ever watch like a baby when they don't have their shirt on, how they breathe? You just see this like Buddha belly go in and out. That's how we're born to breathe. We're meant to breathe from our belly diaphragmatically. Like that's how it's supposed to be. And as we get older, we cut that breath off and we don't receive the same benefits of a true deliberate breath. Like, yes, it's a little uncomfortable to push your beer belly out. For sure it is. Like not everyone loves that, but if you want to reap the benefits of what a diaphragmatic deliberate breath actually is, it's actually putting your hand on your chest and your stomach and trying to get that bottom hand out more. Like there's so much benefit to just finding your breath. And that's like the way to do it, is to get that bottom hand more.
I like that. I like that tip, like a physical cue of, what that deep breath is supposed to look like. Because when I first started getting into meditation, it was like such a weird eye opener to be like, like once your eyes are just open to like, what does my normal breath look like? Like,
Right.
how do I breathe during
That's
the
what,
Day
day?
every
Because
day.
this
yeah, and
does
then you start
feel
thinking about breathing. You're like, oh my God, I've never thought about breathing now. Am I doing it right? Is this what your
yeah.
breath is supposed to be like? Right?
Have I been messing this up the whole time? How's this been happening? Um,
Exactly.
that's super cool. Another question I have for you, because this has become, you're in a professional setting where, and you've been with a Major League Baseball team for 10 years. So like it must be working. You must be doing something right because, uh, you know, any professional team, they're always looking for somebody to blame for why something's not working. And hey, well, we're losing too much. We got to fire somebody or everybody and restart here. On Instagram and social media, there's so many experts in this mental performance or motivation or just this whole like sphere. And most of these people are, either have no accomplishments or some accomplishments, usually no like actual training besides watching other influencers talk about this stuff. How do you sift through this like woo woo kind of stuff that's just like, just unfounded? That's just, oh, that sounds good. Let's go with that versus true scientific based approaches for what you're doing. Because I think, you probably get more frustrated than anybody when you see somebody just like kind of peddling just some nonsense that just sounds kind of cool and doesn't really have any sort of scientific basis. How do you sift through that kind of stuff?
I appreciate you saying the word science. Science is the backbone of what we do, and so I guess I'll say up front, like the work in baseball is built on relationships, and so I mean probably similar to what you guys do, right? Like your relationship with your clients and so on. Um, I am 100% in the relationship business. Now, don't get me wrong, like I'm really proud of my ability and capacity to understand the brain body connection and all that stuff. And we'll talk a little bit more about that with how I sift through stuff. But hands down, the most important thing in my job is relationship building. And, you know, so I mean, connection is the glue to relationships, and relationships are the glue to psychological safety. And once you unlock psychological safety, man, like the world's your oyster. Like what you can accomplish, what you can do, it's like pretty awesome. And so I value relationships so much, and I think that a huge part of connection and psychological safety in relationships is like knowing when to say something and definitely knowing when to say nothing. And I find myself saying nothing a lot more than I say something, and that's that kind of ties a little bit into what you're talking about, like sifting through things. If the mental performance coach is the loudest one in the room, it's probably a concern. If the mental performance coach is talking about the work they're doing with individual players, it's probably a concern. If the mental performance coach is taking success, if they're taking success for other people's success, it's probably a little bit of a concern. I think there's a lot of that stuff. But really what I look for is individuals that teach and come from an understanding model of mental performance. So the thing is we very much used to, like you talked about, just the how it used to be perceived. We used to come from a deficit model, which is real, right? Like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like, oh, like you're in a pretty big slum. Why don't you go talk to that dude that has an office with the door closed that nobody knows about, but you should probably go talk to, right? Like it was always the, you're a little jacked up, bro. You should go talk to that guy, right? Like go talk to the mental skills person, mental performance person. That's very much what it was. And I'm so lucky to be working in an environment now where it's not like that. And so as I think about the idea of what mental performance is, and when I think about looking at other excellent mental performance coaches, it's about them having an understanding model. And the understanding model is I recognize that there is a brain body connection. And my job is to help individuals understand the brain body connection, understand that there is this host of systems and processes that occur physiologically, right? That's what we're so in tune to. I am in tune to my emotions. I'm in tune to my physiology. I couldn't tell you what I was thinking about this morning. No clue. Couldn't tell you. But if I ask anyone, you guys included, or anyone that we're working with, can you describe to me the happiest moment of your life? And right now, I mean, the both of you right now are 100% trying to think about what the happiest moment of your life is. It's in your brain. You're creating images, you're creating pictures. And now you're both kind of smiling. One, because I said a joke, but two, because you're slightly thinking about the happiest moment in your life. And you're experiencing some sort of emotions that slightly bring you back there a little bit. And if we really dove into this and decided to like use some like imagery and talk about what that actually is, you both would experience something physiological. And the fact of the matter is that we are in tune to our physiology. We are in tune to our emotions. And our brain drives all of that. There is a host of biological things that happen to us when things get hard, scary, exciting, whatever it might be, which again describes what a high performance environment is. So our job is to help high performers understand those. And then those high performers get to make informed choices. Now, it's not my job to tell them what their choice is. That's not what I do. That's why they're professional athletes. That's why they're the best soldiers in the country. That's why they're high performers. My job is to set them up for a position where they get to make an informed choice. They get to be like, you know what? This is exactly what Brian was talking about. Like in terms of, wow, when I get into these uncertain situations, he talked about this idea that like my amygdala and my lizard brain is going to kick off and it's going to set off this chain reaction where I'm going to start to be a little bit uncomfortable. I'm going to get sweaty. I'm not sure about my decision making. Okay. Then again, it's that person's choice to decide what they want to do, but they understand the systems and processes that occur in their body. Like that's I hate saying magic sauce because it's such a cliche, but it's like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. Like it's unpacking all of these things that probably all three of us experienced when we were kids or when we were like young adults and we were thinking that like, is there something wrong with me? Like, why do I get so nervous before a speech, soccer game, test, whatever it is? Like, why do I feel this way? And now you understand it. And it's almost like, it's not that it's less scary, but because you're informed, it doesn't catch you off guard and it allows you to like have a little bit more time to make the decisions you want to make. So as I think about what I'm looking for and searching for, it's those people. It's like they're the ones that are empowering their high performers to make the choices. They're not making them for them, but my goodness, are they the most informed, understood high performers that are out there? And do you have badass relationships with them too?
I was like, I don't know. That was pretty awesome. You've like, first off, I feel like if you wanted to start a cult, I'm probably
which
in,
is
man.
I did. I learned how to do it. Right. I learned what they do.
There, that was like really good. I feel like taken advantage of or something. I just feel like that was so like well spoken and like so well put that, you know, you're just trying to put these people in a position to make that informed decision, and you also laid out kind of all the things that make kind of a good the things that are going to make kind of these like good mental performance influencers are the things that are like you know, the things that kind of like eliminate them from like contention of being an actual mental performance coach, just being like braggadocious and being like, you took my class and now you made $1 million. You can too because I'm the best. That was
That's how
like,
they go.
yeah, such a cool way to put it. I one of the things that it reminds me of, and I don't know if you hear this a lot, like you're saying the relationships. Like obviously you can't make an impact on a player, or I mean that just goes across the board. I can't make a connection with an employee or a client or anything like that unless like we have a trusting relationship. Like no, you can't tell somebody how these things are going to work unless they're bought in and they believe in you and they trust you. Have you seen Ted Lasso?
I mean, as a soccer guy, of course I've seen Ted
Okay.
Lasso. Come on.
Like the sports psychologist that comes in and, you know, really
Yeah.
unlocks Ted Lasso's thing. He's so resistant in the beginning, like, you know, he's so against it. And then finally, once he trusts this person, she's able to help him. And hopefully that's a reference like more people will get. Catherine, I know you haven't seen it, but you have to. It's such
Oh, come on. We're gonna need to get that on the playlist there. You can use our Apple Plus password feed. Okay, we got you. We got you.
Yeah, I mean that's just it's so freaking fascinating.
Yeah. Do you
I,
what
yeah, I
like
feel like I've kind of commandeered this whole thing, Catherine. You
you're totally fine.
I've been stealing the spotlight here. Go ahead.
I feel like this kind of stuff, like we've talked about, has been like more recently taken more mainstream, so it's more understood and more, widely known about. Do you find it's like hard to take these players and teach them these things, or is there any resistance there still, or is it kind of like so widely used now in your sport that it's an easy sell?
Yeah, it's so our players that when they come from college, you can draft a player when they're a junior in college, or you can draft a player when they are a senior in high school. I think our college players are typically a little bit more exposed to it. Um, so the cool thing for me, again, baseball, very unique sport. It's one of the few sports where you get drafted, and it typically takes you between 3 and 6 years to actually make it to the major leagues.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the other sports like football or basketball or whatever, like if you're a high draft pick, like you go straight to like the first team, right? Like you go and just play. Um, so we actually have a team of mental performance coaches here. I just happen to work with our major league team. We actually have we have 4 additional mental performance coaches that work all with our minor league teams. So I always joke around, like I just kind of reap the benefits of them doing exceptional work. Like they're often the first face of mental performance that our players see, and they're incredible human beings and just like excellent relationships builders, and just like unbelievable at understanding the process of what our players need. And so the pushback is not there. It's just, again, the capacity to like, right, the urge. It's probably like you guys experience it too, where like you just know a lot. Like you know a lot about your craft, and like I happen to know a lot about my craft. And it's I as you probably can tell, like I'm very excited about it sometimes too. And so it's like I have to use my own self-regulation to just be like, I need to build a relationship with this dude before I try to like just unload on him about all this cool stuff that I know and like how I can help him, everything like that. And so it's like, yeah, like maybe I have to sit there and talk to him about like Fortnite for 2 weeks, or to talk about like video games, or like Ted Lasso, or like the Game of Thrones, or some show that we all know, or whatever it is, whatever the connection is. We talk about aliens and stuff. Aliens seems to be like a big one with our guys. Like they just love talking about conspiracy theories and aliens. But like we you gotta be able to do that. And it's almost, I mean, it's kind of similar to the Ted Lasso situation. It's like once they realize that you're there for them, right? And it's like there's no hidden agenda, there's no special thing going. It's like you're just there for them. It makes a big difference. And I will say, our players like overall are very open and gracious about the work we do. I do think like you talked about the trust part of it, Sean. It's like part of the trust slightly happens naturally just because like I sacrifice very similarly to like the players and like our coaches do as well, and our support staff do as well. Like we all travel together, right? Like we miss, like we're on the road, like I miss my kids' birthdays, like I miss holidays, like you name it, and it's like we're all kind of doing it. So that travel party that's constantly on the road and stuff, like we're all in it together. You're winning, you're losing, like that type of stuff. And I think that our players do have a little bit of respect for the idea that like we're willing to make those sacrifices for them, and that helps to alleviate some of that. But man, we're so lucky. I will also say baseball and golf probably like really ahead of the curve. I don't think you'll hear that sentiment in some of the other bigger sports. They just haven't gotten there yet. Basketball and football, hockey, not so much. Even like European soccer, like obviously what I follow, it's just like it's just not as prevalent. I'm in the dugout for our games, like just a bald guy in the dugout, just looking no hair, no hat. Like everyone always jokes, there's like, B Miles, we always see you on TV. I'm like, you don't just always see me on TV. If I had a hat on, I would blend in like everybody else. It's just that pale, bald head, man, just sticks out when the camera pans on the dugout, and there I am, So it's like
one of those things where it's like, what? Who is this guy in the dugout? It doesn't look like the manager. He's definitely too old to be a ball boy. Like what?
That's me.
Who is this guy?
Okay, I'll tell you a funny story, but so I got hit up by our like one of our media guys. He sent me like a private email, and he was like, "I thought you would think this is hilarious," and so he sends me a link. I click on it. It's a Reddit post, and then like a bunch of threads about it was a picture of me, and it was like, and it literally goes, "Who is this guy? I see him on TV all the time," and it was just like And then like people started making fun of me. They were like calling me like some pro wrestler or something, and they're like just like this whole thread about. And then I must have been one of our media people because someone finally chimed in with like my bio. They're like, oh, I believe that's Brian Miles, like the Major League Mental Performance coach. But it was like a whole subreddit about like who this bald dude is in the dugout. So yeah, I don't know. I may stand out like a sore thumb. Must be.
That's pretty
That's
amazing
awesome.
to have that. I could see like some conspiracy theories kind of blossoming around that. So I'm glad that got squashed.
We did.
Um Another like you're dealing with the highest of performers, like the people that are at the top of their game, the best in the world. Um are these techniques and I'm starting to already feel like I know the answer to this. Are these techniques like are there specific ones that are gonna just work for people that have kind of already been in this mental performance game and are already super high performers, or are these techniques like the same ones that are going to work for the super high performers and the best in the world, are they going to work for just the very everyday person that just has a regular job and just does regular stuff?
Listen, we all do just regular stuff. It's just yeah, I do think as I look at like the lens of my life and sort of how it's transformed, especially just being a dad, and like I identify so much with that because I just like love it so much. It really is the day-to-day stuff. And it's maybe it's like scaled out. Like I think potentially our players have more opportunities to utilize the skills because of the opportunity. Whatever, we play like 162 games in 180 days, like, right, like we have a lot of opportunities to do that and practice those skills, right? So it's more about like just the opportunity to do it, because they just do it every night. But how you manage your attention every single day, everyone has that opportunity. One of the yeah it's a phrase that's like slightly irritating, but it's used all the time. It's just like control the controllables. Like people just throw that out like nonstop, right? But if you like start to unpack what that actually means and like look at your life day to day, the idea that every day you get to make a choice of where you spend your most like important resources and commodities, right? So like our most important resource and commodities as human beings is our attention, our energy. Okay, you have a finite amount of it. It's like I'm talking like a water bottle filled, and like all you have is your attention and your energy, and it's like where and who do you choose to give that to? And what you start to realize is like if I'm choosing to give it to things and to people that I, can't touch, manage, influence, and control remotely, then you're like wasting that resource. And if you think about your day to day, and goodness, like if your business is anything like my dad's business, like you have to deal with just a lot of stuff that happens that you can't control. That, don't get me wrong, is probably like wicked irritating. It is. Like I'm not downplaying that, but it's the people who just fixate and like get stuck with their attention and their energy on that and just waste it away, and that whole day is stuck on this one thing that happened, right? Like I mean I was like thinking about my dad, just like all the crap, right? The tractor that breaks, or the guy who's supposed to deliver material didn't show up, like the weather, I mean you name it. And it's like and then it just like just completely ruins the day. And it's just so real as you think about your day to day. You think about the idea of like going home to your person or your people at home, and that's the version of you they get, the depleted energy, the depleted attention, and then you have nothing left for them because you made the choice to give it to something or to someone that like it just didn't deserve it. It didn't deserve your energy. It didn't deserve your attention. Like those are the tangible things that you get to do every day. You get to make that choice. It's like it cracks you up, right? Like you're driving. I mean, you guys are from Jersey, man. Like driving down the turnpike, Garden State, worst drivers in the world. And it's just like you're gonna get mad at that dude that cut you off, and like you're just gonna be pissed off when you show up where you're supposed to be because some guy cut you off. Like that's a choice. That's a legitimate choice. And there is a wild freedom when you just let that stuff go and you empower yourself to make a choice about what and who you give your energy to. It's like, it's pretty wild how it feels when you do that, because man, it drastically impacts the relationships of those people around. We already talked about how relationships are just like the most important thing.
Yeah. That like how you pay your attention is such an important part of your life. Like people say time is the most precious resource, but it really is attention, because it's you know that is going to dictate like how that time is spent. And that's such a good reminder to have every day, is like you have that choice how you're going to respond to something. You can't control everything happening to you, but you can control how you respond to it. And I think that's one of the great things about having ADHD, I guess. Like I'm not able to focus on things for that long. So like I'll be like really upset and pissed off, and then I'll forget and I'll start thinking about something else, and then I'm just over it. So it's like that puppy kind of mindset works really good. It causes me a lot of grief in other areas when I can't focus on anything, but in that one particular thing, I can turn a new leaf pretty quick because I'll forget about it.
Yeah.
Um, that's just so impactful for everybody, and it's frustrating almost because it's so simple of a concept, but it's so hard to practice in your daily life. And like the more you're aware that this is a choice, you're almost like hard on yourself, like I'm mad right now, and I know that it's a choice that I'm mad. And like you can like you just have to like give yourself grace to like mindfulness. Just notice that you're there. And it's not when people say, hey, I can't do meditation because like my mind's all over the place. It's like, then you're the perfect person
Yeah,
to
you're who
start
needs it.
practicing this, because that's
Yeah.
when you get, that is the practice, is like the more opportunities you have to bring yourself back to the breath, that's what's going to build that mental stamina and that mental concentration. So like you're going to be great at this, because that is what meditation is. It's coming back to the breath. If you never leave the breath, there's not a lot of opportunities for practice there. So, so interesting. Just the it's always the simplest things that are the hardest to do, and you need like those reminders to just kind of be forefront of your mind, to know that you're the one that's in control of a lot of these things. And you know, everyone wants to look outside of themselves to blame their situation on, but a lot of times you are just as culpable in where you have arrived, because you have half the control of the situation. You control how you react, and that's half of every interaction.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, man, you're just preaching my stuff right here. Yeah, you could just pass this all along yourself. We're
Like,
good.
this is just all the stuff that I needed to hear. Like this is all the stuff I need to be reminded of on a daily basis. Like, so that leads me into my next question. What tips do you have for people that are everyday people that can use this stuff
Mhm.
to keep it front of mind? Like that's the biggest thing for me, is just to have it at the forefront of my mind, to remember to let things go, to remember to come back to the breath. What are some tips to just have that there?
Yeah, I mean, if you're so I'm a huge, I actually really love like sticky notes. I don't know, like, I mean, organization, or whatever, calendars in the back. I think Catherine, I see you got something over your left shoulder. It's
Yeah.
like,
I have
it's,
My
nothing.
yeah,
grandparents.
you got, yeah, calendar. I mean, I have my daily planner. It's already, I'm a big sticky note guy, honestly. Like if you even had to have a sticky note just in your mirror, just like to remind when you wake up in the morning, brushing your teeth, you just have something there, that part that's front of it. Um, I've also found that engaging with other people about these things is really helpful. So, I mean, I know I talk about my kids all the time, but like and it's funny, I shared this with like a lot of the boys from Montclair, because we all have kids too, and we were just talking about like um how we're like parenting, and it's social media is like great and bad for parenting, because like it can make you feel like a pretty crappy parent just if you like get fixated on the parent algorithm on social media, where it's just like, oh, like it's like 90% of your time with your kids is gone by the time they're 12, and you're like, great, like I'm just like it's like I'm terrible, whatever. But the idea, like, I mean, there's tons of literature on growth and fixed mindset. So Carol Dweck, The book Mindset's like absolutely fascinating because so Carol Dweck's a researcher, and most of her research was on children in school, and it talks about how we praise kids nowadays. So right, like and Sean, maybe we're just as bad at this, but it's like kid does something, you're like good job. It's like or you're just like, oh, you're so smart, you're so good, you're so great, and it's like that's not teaching them. So it's like not helping them understand like what they're actually good at. And so the idea of praising the act or behavior of effort, or like praising the hard work, when we know that like in growth fixed mindset research, like hard work is the key to mastery, and like understanding feedback is the key to mastery. So it's like Marlo's 4, right? And she's like, I'll be honest with you, she's like pretty good at coloring. I'm not gonna lie, she's like pretty damn good. So I was like funny, like Megan and I were sitting there and I'm like watching, I literally said, I'm like, did you color that? She's like, yeah, I colored that. And I was like, Meg, did she color that? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you didn't color that, Meg? She's like, no, I didn't. So I'm like sitting there, the natural inclination is like, oh my God, Marlo, you're so good at coloring. Like that's what you want to say. But we've like Megan and I have had conversations about like, I want to praise the work. That's what I want to do. So like my conversations with my 4-year-old are very much around the idea of like, Marlo, I've been seeing you practicing coloring the lines. And like, I know your teachers have talked about it too. Like, I'm so proud of you for how hard you've been working at that. I don't even talk about the result. I talk about the idea that her hard work is what got her there. Because over the course of time, when she hears that hundreds of times over her when she's 4 years old and 5 years old and 6 years old, she's going to start to recognize that like, it's not just this natural gift that she has. It's all based around hard work. Like that's how you include other people, and you start, like you talked about, like how you make this front of mind and make the changes as you're helping to facilitate changes in those around you. This isn't just about kids, it's about your significant others, loved ones, partners, whatever it is, employees, whatever. Like it's going to change the way that you think and the way that you think about your work and what you're doing and how you're included. And it's so fun to like watch a little mini me, and you're like you recognize that you're influencing and shaping the behaviors of this human being. And so yeah, I don't know, I know that that's maybe not, I mean, whatever, you can do put reminders on your phone and all that stuff, but I just think like living it with another person is just such a powerful way to elicit behavior change.
That was deep, man. That was great. Like, and we also do like a weekly book review, like the hardworking happy hour book club. And right now we're reading Hidden Potential, and that's like one of the parts in there is about education and teaching. And I mean, and I've heard this, throughout school and everything, like the way to really master a subject or a concept is, you learn it, then you can kind of like get your legs under you, but then you really like get a deeper understanding for it when you start to teach someone else this skill. And that's like, I don't know, I feel like that's such a good tip for people. Like use it to teach and help somebody else. And if you're focused on that, it's going to put it at the forefront of your brain for yourself. And I think it's obviously something I need to do. Like that was such a great tip, because all I ever say is like, Max, you're so smart. Oh my God, how did you do that?
You're not.
That's all I ever. I'm just like, because I'm just like amazed. Like, oh my God, you're so smart. And like, really, all I'm gonna do is just gonna like feel like he's just like this entitled kid. Like, oh, I'm so smart. My dad said I'm like the smartest kid he's ever seen. But like, that's such a good point. Like, praise the hard work that it took to get there, or like the problem solving, or hey, I saw you didn't give up when it didn't work the first time.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you for sticking with it.
Yes. Praise the behavior. Yeah. Praise the behavior. Love that. It's so hard though. It's so hard. We're just like conditioned to say like, good job, buddy. Like that's what we do, right?
I'm also laughing because I'm like putting myself in my shoes tomorrow, and Catherine's going to be like, I don't think that's what he meant when I go to work. And I'm like, Catherine, I am so proud of you for how you with that. We put that permit in and it was so annoying, but you stuck with it. And she's gonna be like, Sean, I don't think you're grasping the concept here. Yeah. That would be funny for the vlog maybe next week.
That would be good.
Yeah.
We can add that in.
Praise the behavior, man. Very nice. Love that. Oh man.
I got a couple more questions here. We're kind of running up on an hour. I hope we're not taking too much of your time here.
No, all
Cool.
good.
And you're at spring training right now in Arizona.
It's
Or that-
true. Yep,
Okay.
sure am. Yeah,
That
it's
that's
so
super
it's
cool.
what time is it? It's only 4:48 here. Yeah, I got done. We're out here from February 9th until March 26th, and then we fly to Oakland. We start on the road, play Oakland, Seattle, and then Minnesota, and then I get back home April 7th. So
Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's a long stretch.
That's a
Yeah.
long stretch.
And I know that there's like, 162 games of baseball. Is it really in 180 days?
Yeah, it's like something like that. It might have changed, but it's relatively close to that. Yeah.
So it's like you get like literally like 18 days off in.
Yeah, I think so. Man, it might not even be 18 days. I don't know. They're like spread out. Like 4 of those are like the All-Star break, so it's actually less than that. Like, it's like when you say it out loud like that, you're like, damn.
That's crazy.
That's very
I know that
crazy.
there's like a Phillies game on like almost every single night, but
Yeah.
that's like
Sure is.
that is a serious grind. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Plus, you're
Puts you
just like
through it.
traveling all over the country and a little bit of Canada
Mhm.
throughout that.
Time zones, man. We'll get you.
Crazy. Yeah. I have a couple more questions. Catherine, do you have any that you want to jump into?
I think we covered all the ones that I had written down. So
Okay.
go ahead.
All right.
Fire away.
Floor is mine now. All right. Let me see. All right. Favorite books. What do you got? Suggestions for us, for our listeners? Like what's at the top of your try to keep it under like 30 books.
Under $30. All right. I'll send you my
Top of
book
mind,
list.
whatever
I do have a book list. I'll send it to you after
Oh.
this if you guys
That'd be
want
awesome.
to post it on
Yeah.
something. But
Definitely.
top books for me, Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Big stoicism guy. The book Peak by Anders Ericsson. So he was the one who came up with the 10,000 hour rule. So it's like really cool to learn about practice and like how we learn things. For any nerds out there, this is like the nerdiest of the books, but it's called The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Doogie. It's a book on neuroplasticity. It is fascinating. It's all about the neuroscience of the brain, about how the brain is malleable. The old adage of like, you can't teach a old dog new tricks is like just complete BS. Like really talks and breaks down like how we do that. That's incredible. Obviously, like I already mentioned, like Mindset by Carol Dweck, but that's like an OG great book. Man, this maybe isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I do love like Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F Word. I don't know if you can swear on this or not, but like Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. So it's like really great. It's a lot about like what you give your energy and attention to. So huge fan of that. And then this is for anyone who's like a little interested about the mental performance world, but isn't like down to read like a super large book. And it's a little peculiar, but it's called The Inner Game of Tennis by, is it Tim Calloway? I believe it's Tim Calloway. I might be wrong on that, but The Inner Game of Tennis, it's not about tennis. Let's just say it's a super short book and it's got some absolute gems in there about mental performance, about mindset and stuff like that. So those would be the ones off the top of the dome, but I legitimately will send you my book list. I get asked by like grad students sometimes, like, oh, like, what book should I read? I'm like, here's like 40, go for it. And like, just pass them on. But those are probably the ones that have influenced like the way I do my work the most, for sure.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't wait to read some of those. And we do a basically like a weekly book that we read and talk about on the podcast. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys are just bettering people. That's pretty awesome, man.
we're just
or you're bettering yourself, but like you like share it. That's what I dig.
Oh my God, we're already living some of this stuff.
What do you mean you already are? You are living some of this stuff. You are living this stuff.
Our whole thing about our podcast, well, it changed relatively quickly after we started it. When we started, it was like, we're gonna like, let's talk about all the things that like we know a lot about, like, because we know a lot of things, like, so we need to share it with people. Let's not
tell everyone.
And then after like 3 episodes, we're like, all right, well, that pretty much covers it. So what are we gonna do now?
Now what are you talking about?
And then it turned into, okay, well, let's just talk about the things that like, because we ran out of stuff that we're good at. let's talk about the things that like we're messing up on and we don't have the answers to, but let's kind of like stoke that conversation for people listening with themselves. Like, we don't have the answers, but we're going to talk about how we're trying to kind of work through it, and hopefully that kind of just sparks that question in yourself. Like, okay, hey, maybe I need to think about these things because a lot of this stuff sounding like problems I have. So,
That's very
um,
cool.
that's kind of our whole thing because we realized we got humbled very quickly. It was like such a shockingly small amount of episodes before we're like, oh God, what are we going to talk about this week? Like, we covered everything. So yeah, this one,
I
I
wait. I have
oh,
one more question.
okay.
Just because I'm
You
curious.
said you were done.
I know. I'm sorry. I
It's
thought of something.
all right. Fine, we'll
Um.
allow it. Go ahead.
So something that we talk about, like we love social media because it's kind of created this like network of peers for us. Do you feel like you have that? Like I feel like your job is so niche. Do you have like a network of peers that you rely on for motivation and support?
That's a great question. I 100% have like a very small circle of folks that I absolutely adore and respect the way they go about their work. Um, the yeah, like I actually met quite a few people in baseball. So like two of my best friends both like used to work in baseball. They now are like just do like private consulting and stuff like that. But I have like, a couple of other mental performance coaches that I call when I'm just like I don't even know what to do right now. Or like I'm totally stuck. It's funny, my boss actually, so she's a clinical psychologist. And she worked at the United States Olympic Committee. Her name's Dr. Lindsay Shaw. So she was the lead psychophysiologist at the USOC for about 10 years. And so she's a clinical psych. She's a mental performance coach like me, and she's a psychophysiologist. So she's like wicked smart. Um, she's like a rock star to me. I talk to her every day and talk through the mental performance stuff that I'm questions or things I might have. But yeah, having a circle is really helpful. My circle also is like um, way different than me, and that's probably like the best part of it. Is like I don't think I have like we maybe have like similar styles, like energy, whatever, like that.
Mhm.
But like the way that my friends go about their work is so different, and like I can't do the stuff my friend Justin can do, and I can't do the work that my friend Lauren does. Like the way that they do it, but their
Mhm.
perspectives on like this world is just fascinating, and I love it. If you you know, I realize as I've gotten older, maybe it's the same for you guys. I've gotten older, my circle's gotten smaller. But man, like those ones that are in it, just like I don't know. I just love surrounding myself with people that are like way better than me. They're totally better than me. So I know I'm lucky. Yeah.
Definitely.
That's awesome. I'm always really fascinated about daily routines. For me, it's one of my biggest things. Like when I am, feel like things are going good and like I can concentrate and just things are really humming for me. It's because I'm in a daily routine where I get, certain things done. Like I'm exercising regularly. I'm eating well. I'm doing meditation and mindfulness and all that kind of stuff. It's I noticed it has such a huge impact on me. So I'm interested to know, like, you have all this knowledge about all of these tools, and like that can almost be kind of like crippling sometimes. It's like the contractor that has the house that's falling down, or the shoemaker that has the messed up shoes, or whatever that saying is. What's your daily routine look like, and is it easy for you to just be like, "Oh, I'm locked in, like this is my thing, not a problem, I'm a pro about it," or can it be really challenging for you as well to stick with stuff like that?
Yeah, I I sort of chunk it with like I guess it depends on where I am. So if I'm on the road or like for example I'm out here without my family, well my routine at spring training is like pretty set up for me. I mean I get here at like 6 o'clock. I have a meeting at 6:45 every morning, and then we have a staff meeting at 9, and then we're out on the field, and then so I have it's like pretty laid out for me. Um, when the season starts. it gets a little bit different. So if we're on the road, I actually do have like a pretty good routine in the morning. You know, I'm in some city and we're staying in a hotel. It's like I always will try to find a coffee spot that's like a mile away, so I can like go walk there and just get outside. And just it's like I'm also like obsessed with getting my steps in. So I get my steps in. I'm equally obsessed with coffee. And so I go find a good coffee spot, and just kind of chill there, like whether it's like read or catch up on some work, do some things there. And I just like to get outside as much as I can. And when I get back to the hotel, it's just like, whatever, you do some work. I also like my coworker is a former Marine, so we just like try to bust out push-ups all the time. So like I'm just gonna like, bust out like I'm trying to do like 100 push-ups a day. So I'll just like bust out like 10 push-ups at a time. Everyone like will walk by our office like, what the hell are you guys doing? I'm like, don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. Just get our push-ups in. But I just like try to do some of that stuff, and then whatever, you catch your bus to the field, and then it's like, oh, like here we go, the day starts. You got all the baseball stuff going on.
Yeah.
And but in terms of like eating and things like that, like I try I intermittent fast. So I try to eat my windows of time where I'll eat, and like, so whatever, I'll eat lunch at like 12:30, and then I'll eat dinner at 5, and then just be done for the day. When I'm at home, it's like a lot different. My time is very much chunked at like the second that Mac jumps on my face at like 6 a.m. Like my son, it's like I only think about like what I'm gonna do with my kids and my family in the morning. So it's a lot of like, how can I take the kids out to do stuff so Meg can have some time by herself? Because God knows she deserves it and needs it when, like, she's just caring for these kids all the time I'm gone. So it's very much like, what does my family need for these 5 hours that I'm home in the morning, 6 hours I'm home in the morning. So I could care less what the routine is. I could care less about my own wellness. It's just my cup is filled by being with the kids and being with Meg. And then, maybe I play a little catch up when I get to the field and stuff like that. But I try not to be too strict. I try not to be too rigid. I don't get upset if I don't get one thing in during the day. I recognize that like it's better to be gracious with yourself than be upset with yourself for like not getting something done. But I recognize also how lucky I am to actually have some specifics, like things that happened every single day for me that like help me create a routine. Some people have to like really be diligent with themselves, but I also think that the best performers are also like pretty mentally agile and flexible. So that's part of it too.
I think that's like just such a good way to put it. Like, be gracious with yourself, because one of my things is sometimes I can be like too like I'll know my ideal routine, and then as soon as I like mess up or slip up on it, it's like I'm like beating myself up about it, and then it's like, all right, well, just let me just eat as much junk as possible till Monday and then start over, and I'll never make another mistake ever again. And I'll never slip up. And obviously that doesn't work well. You can imagine. So being gracious with yourself, I think, is a good reminder for people. Like, just try your best, try to be consistent with these things, but also be a little like, give yourself a little bit of grace, because it's not easy, and it's sometimes not impossible to do these things every day, even though you see these
Yeah, you
motivational
only
influencers that
no, you see the highlight reel, man. Screw
4:30
that.
every day.
Screw that
Not
shit. You
even
see the
start.
highlight reel.
Yeah,
Social media is the highlight reel. No, it's not real. It's
yeah,
not real. Life's messy. Life's complicated. The social media is the highlight reel. Don't get it twisted. It's never as pretty as it looks.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. We're over an hour here. Thank you so much for just like taking the time to chat with us.
Yeah, thank
This
you.
was like so fascinating to me. I feel like we could talk for like 5 hours. We'd love to have you on again to like, get into some more questions with you. Um, where can people follow you? Do you want people to follow you? Should they just buzz off? Like, you're
No, it's, I appreciate that. I will listen. I appreciate your guys' perspective on stuff. It's like, it's funny. Like, I mean, Catherine, like, I obviously like been following you because of Sean, but like, I always remember, like, again, like, I remember our experiences and time together, Shanti. It was like,
yeah.
you, like, the optimism and gratitude that you showed when, like, what we were like 20 and 21, like, obviously hasn't shifted to like nowadays. And I like look at you as like a dad and like a husband and stuff. It's just so cool to see. And it's like, it's funny, I text like with some of the guys from Montclair, and it's like I hear you talking about things that I talk to players about. It's like, like I said, it's I call it hunt the good stuff, and you guys are just like, what's your good thing? It's like you're doing and living those things, like both of you. So it's super cool to see how it's all played out. Like, obviously I'm infatuated by like the badass patios and like decks and shit you guys put in, but I'm like also just good people that like share good stuff. Like I said, like you guys are doing it for the betterment of yourselves, but you're like bettering a lot of people. So I just want to say that and I'm not just like saying because I'm standing in front of you guys the microphone, like I actually do believe that. So I would love to come back on. I was joking with my coworker. I was like, maybe my dad and I will come on together. My dad can tell you about all the tough times at Elven Glade Landscaping back in the day. Probably tell you all the stories about me being his worst employee. So
Yeah. We could have.
Yeah.
We already did have my dad on, and it was. I think he did accuse me possibly of being his worst employee. He's like, I don't want to say it, but I had to fire him. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm supposed to say this on here, but yeah, I had to let him go.
Yeah, that would be.
I fired him.
Yeah, it'll be like my dad's like, I gave that guy a ton of breaks and blah blah blah. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. But if someone, yeah, if you guys want to follow, I have Instagram and Twitter. I try to post mental performance stuff on there. It's just Brian C. Miles. I'm on like LinkedIn too, and then if anyone's interested in just more mental performance stuff, I have a couple of years ago, those two of my people in my circle I talked about, we did like a little 10 episode series on YouTube called The Mindset Show, where it's kind of similar to this. We just riffed on mental performance topics and just mess around. So if anyone's interested, that's out there too. But yeah, man, I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys again. It was wicked fun.
We'll look out for you in the games now that we know we'll be able to see the dugout.
Hey, so we come to Philly this year. End of July, we're playing the Phillies in Philly. So I'll see probably that'll be like the one game that'll actually be on TV for you guys down there.
Really?
So,
and I can get in the dugout with you?
Yeah, you can get in the dugout. Hey, listen, Sean, I'll be at Mike's house, so I'll probably be hanging out in a really nice backyard. So we'll have to get together for sure.
Yeah, we should be done by July. I think.
I hope so.
Oh, thank you seriously so much. Like, this was so fascinating, so cool to be able to talk to you. Like I said, objectively just have such a cool job. You probably hear that all the time, but it is super cool. And we appreciate it. What do we say at the end of these? I'm always so bad at ending these. Till next time. This has been the Hardworking Happy Hour.
Yep. See
That's
you next week.
All right.